Yo, welcome to Loop City. We are five guys that love hoops, culture, and entertainment. Today, we are diving into the Netflix documentary, The Redeem Team, that was released on October the 7th. I've got Mike Skills, Coach Matt, and Gonzostar with me. Everybody knows I'm Pistol Pete's Hole. So, want to jump right into it. Coach Matt, I'm going to go to you first. You watch pretty much, I think we all watch it, but you're kind of a little bit more hardcore into like the Olympic basketball and stuff like that. So, what was your initial thoughts of finding out that the documentary was coming out? It came out October the 7th. What was your initial thoughts?
Well, I remember seeing they put the I randomly saw the trailer. I guess I was on my YouTube and I saw, when you first go on to the screen and it has all the subscriptions the people use, and it was just randomly on there, Redeem Team. I was like, oh shit, and it said Netflix, and we had briefly talked about the And One documentary that was on there. I'm like, oh okay, and I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, this is gonna be dope. They
Yeah.
didn't really give much away. They kind of did the whole in the trailer, kind of like they lost and they had to go get Kobe and all that stuff. So when I saw the trailer, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. Mike Skills. So,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you're a historian. I think just in obvious various basketball discussions with you, you're able to pick apart little small nuances of facts that sometimes I don't even think about. So, what was your initial thought when you heard about the Redeem Team? Anything that kind of came back to mind initially when you heard about it?
Are you talking about originally when the team was announced, or with the doc?
Just recently when you found out the doc was coming. Anything
Oh,
that kind of hit home where it was like, oh
oh,
yeah, I remember this. Or
yeah, absolutely. With the doc hit home because I started thinking about where the team was at that part. I mean, they had lost in '02, they had lost in '04. It was no longer the dream team. We were no longer sending our best players. So when I heard about it, it was like, man, how did that team work? How did that, you know, whose lead did they follow? And we watching the documentary, and it's clear it was Kobe. It was Kobe is that guy. Like,
yeah,
that was the most interesting thing I saw. And when they set up the trailer, one of the clips that they put out where he's running through Paul Gasol's chest on that screen, I was like, oh, okay, Kobe was the head of that team.
yeah. Gonzo, for you, anything that initially stuck out in your mind that you kind of went back to of like, once you heard the doc was announced, it was coming October the 7th. Anything that kind of came to mind that you recall from originally in '08 when this team was kind of going through it?
When I saw the trailer, I wasn't really excited at first. I kind of looked as if I thought it was just one of those documentaries that just wanted to copy the '92 Dream Team documentary, and I wasn't really excited. And I kind of looked at it as like, oh, it's just a team full of losers. And the only person on the team that was really a winner was Dwayne Wade, and Tayshaun Prince. But you know, then I kind of said, you know what? I saw Kobe, and I'm like, okay, this might be pretty good. And there's one, which I'll get to it later. One thing I have to give credit for this documentary is like, especially the cinematography around Kobe. Like, it's one shot in that whole documentary that kind of like stood out to me, and it let me know like, okay, Kobe's the man. And it made me rethink my top 5 choices, because that moment with Kobe, at one point in the documentary, when Kobe walked in the hall and walked into the room with the players, the way the camera had showed the light beaming around Kobe, it was almost like Jesus had walked into the room, like the savior to this team walked into the room. I have to give, I respect Kobe much more now than I think I ever have. I've always listed him as a top 10 player, possibly top 5 player, but after watching this documentary, hands down, he's number 2 all time.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to give a little bit of, for anybody that's watching and listening, I'm going to give a little bit of backstory of how we got to the documentary as far as Team USA. So, obviously, USA men's basketball in the Olympics from 1936 to 1984, the team won 9 gold medals out of 10 attempts. Their only loss was to the Soviet Union in the 1972 men's basketball final. It was the big controversial loss in which Doug Collins basically talks about in the doc. We'll get to that a little bit later. The 92 Dream Team gets assembled. Obviously, we know how stacked that team was. They win the gold medal. They also win the gold medal, Team USA, in 1996 and 2000. Right after that, the appeal of playing for Team USA, kind of diminished. 9 top players bowed out. And then what I think was the nail in the coffin, Coach Larry Brown takes over the team with a mix of veterans and young players. The veterans were kind of more isolation-based players that weren't really into the team concept. You had the younger players that didn't play because we all know Larry Brown is an asshole that does not like to play young players. There obviously was the critical off-the-court concerns about terrorism that left a lot of players, basically staying away. You had the cruise ship off the coast of Greece, the Olympic Village, all that stuff, wasn't able to, it
no Olympic Village. Yeah, it wasn't 92 with Charles Barkley walking around.
Wasn't there? Yeah, wasn't there an Olympic Village? But the Americans didn't feel comfortable. Is that what it was?
Yeah, they stayed away from it. Yeah.
So
that's why they stayed on
that big ass cruise ship.
That's why they stayed on the cruise ship, because they were like, we
Yeah.
could police this one thing versus a whole area. But yeah,
Right.
that
All right. So that takes us to 2004.
mhm.
And Matt, I'm going to set you up first.
All right.
That opening game against Puerto Rico.
Woo!
Carlos Arroyo
Had a game.
Yeah, that was one of those things, and I remember, like, I watched the game, and one time, so what? This comes, it's 18 years ago, so I didn't remember everything about it. But when they showed Carlos Arroyo going off, I'm like, every time this team loses, even in 06, which I know we'll get to at the World Championships, it's always some random dude that, like, not many people know who he is. They end up in the NBA that just goes nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean, Carlos Arroyo, good NBA player. I mean, what did he have? A 9-10 year NBA career?
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's not like he's a bad player or anything, but Carlos Arroyo is their best player. Even though this dream team, the young guys didn't play much, and I remember Carmelo Anthony's comment.
But you can't even call it a
I don't know.
you can't
I wasn't out there. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, but you can't call it a dream team because 9 of the best players sat out. Shaq, no Kobe. You know what I'm saying? No Vince Carter. No, you know what I'm saying?
The only is it AI was probably the big, and Duncan were the 2 big stars who played.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and what was crazy is, I don't know if you guys remember him because he, basically didn't do much, but Peter John Ramos was
Yes.
a 7'3" kind of beast, paint protector and all that stuff. That's kind of how he got put on the map by like the NBA nerds and all that stuff of look how great he can be and all that stuff. Of course, it didn't translate, but it just goes to show of like how these Olympic teams are, a little bit different with the team concepts versus the way that Team USA plays. Gonzo, so they obviously get beat by Puerto Rico. Then you get Argentina. You want to talk about that? Just playing
Ginobili,
Argentina.
Luis Scola, Andres Nocioni.
Well, first, when I first saw that they put Tim Duncan and AI on this team together, what you got? You got one team player, and you got one guy who's a 43% shot chucker for his career. I knew that wasn't going to work when I first saw that together. I just knew that wasn't going to work. But anyway, they played against Argentina, man. Oh, these guys play. These guys kind of grew up playing together. So you're playing against a well-oiled machine, and I tell people, when it comes to basketball, of course you have to have talent, obviously. But more than anything, if you have no teamwork and no chemistry, I don't care how much talent you have. Eventually, you will get beat. It's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina was a well-oiled machine, and it was just too much for America. They just threw a bunch of players on one team, and they just assumed they were going to win because they were more athletic. They were more athletic, and I think they assumed they were going to win. Not to mention Larry Brown. Come on, like I understand why he's had problems with on teams, and he didn't win as many championships. Good coach, but I think it's foolish and idiotic that he doesn't start young players. That's another one of those things that Tibbs has done in the NBA. And let me tell you something, he ain't won jack either. You know, think of this just for a moment. Joe Dumars didn't get Carmelo because he knew Larry Brown wasn't going to play a rookie. Think about how much better Melo probably would have been defensively if he would have played with Carmelo, played with the Joe Rasheed Wallace, Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace. Think about how many rings he probably could have had. Whether it be one or two, regardless. Think about how that would have shaped his legacy versus LeBron. I really think about that. You know, it's just one of those things, man. You know, unfortunately, America got scraped in 04.
Yeah, they're playing Argentina. Pepe Sanchez, who had a cup of coffee in the NBA with the Sixers and Pistons, basically said it the best. You know, it's a team sport. You play 5-on-5, not 1-on-1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much where they, you know, kind of got deflated and tried to kind of put the pieces together to say, hey, we got to make a change. Jerry Colangelo gets added in kind of as the so-called GM to go, or president to go, you know, figure out which players to go get, what kind of coach to go get. Mike Skills, we get to 2008, and who do they go get?
First it's 2006. They get Krzyzewski. They get Krzyzewski. And the thing I want to give a shout out to Jerry Colangelo, because he is in the Hall of Fame as a GM, owner, as a basketball ambassador. And the reason I want to shout him out is because the first thing he did when he accepted the job was he identified the problem. All the other teams around the world that are beating us, these guys, they have a culture. They play together. They have a familiarity with each other. Not just, hey, I see you at the All-Star weekend, or, you know, we work out in the summer. Like, no, these guys know each other, and they were an actual team. And he realized, he's like, look, we got to have a pool of players first, and we got to have a strong coach. And that strong coach that all the players kind of were skeptical of was Coach K. But he quickly got him in line. It's like, look, man, I'm not going to tell you guys how to play. I'm not going to tell you to leave your ego at the door. In fact, bring your ego. The way you play in the NBA, that mindset you have, like, no stepping on, there's not going to be any stepping on toes here. You know, we want you to compete at the highest level, and, you know, don't be stat hunting. I mean, that was kind of what I was saying, but it was like, look, we're here to win. You know, this is a sport that we created, so as Americans, we should have pride in it. And if you're going to be on this team, you should understand the legacy of it. And him bringing in Doug Collins to tell them what it was like to lose under that controversial, I mean, it's not even controversial. It's, you go back and watch it. Doug Collins is fouled down one, hits 2 free throws. U.S. goes up 50-49. Then they inbound the ball. Russia doesn't get a shot off in time. Game over. U.S. celebrates. But then a U.S. official comes out of the stands and says, put time back on the clock. They put time back on the clock. They throw the ball in, no shot off, nope. Run it again. They didn't start the clock right away. So then they gave Russia a third chance to win. Inbound pass, miracle shot, and it's just, nah, bruh. Like, it's not even controversial. That was ugly. And so to have Doug Collins talk about the feeling, that emotional, that experience as a basketball player, to not only be the first team to lose since, first American team to ever lose in competition after basketball was made an Olympic sport like 30, 40 years prior. And then to realize that you have been cheated too. So it's like, it's a double whammy. And I think Coach K, he identified the psychological aspect. It's like, look, you're not going to win this game on yourself. You guys got to play as a team, but you also got to have pride,
Yeah.
I liked it. I was going to say, I like that Mike mentioned that about having pride, because one thing that I really liked about the documentary that they showed that we didn't see, maybe they showed it, we just didn't remember it. But so they have this team meeting, and Coach K, being a West Point graduate, a military man, he brings in a couple soldiers, right? One of them, I believe, was a general. Not quite sure, because I was a Navy guy. But then they bring in Captain Scotty Smiley, who was injured in Iraq, lost both of his eyes, even though it looks like he can see. And I loved how he was just talking to the guys, and then they're working out in the practice, and Captain Smiley sitting on the sideline, and Dwayne Wade's communicating back with them. I thought that was fantastic.
Absolutely.
And it showed them you got to have pride. You have to have pride in what you're doing here. It's not just about you.
And he said it, at that meeting. He was like, this is bigger than Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. This isn't about the Los Angeles Lakers or the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Miami Heat. This is about the United States of America and what basketball means to this country. It's a sport that originated in North America, Dr. James Naismith, Springfield, Mass. So it's our game. We created the game. It's a global game now, and the Dream Team made it so. But at the same time, we should be able to compete at a level that they were getting embarrassed. It wasn't just losing. It was how they lost. They lost to a Greece team with a guy named Baby Shaq.
Sophocles Scortianus.
Didn't they was Vanilis Spanoulis on that team?
Yes.
I thought so. Did I say his first name right? He played for the Rockets, Mike.
He did.
He had a cup of coffee with the Rockets.
He got a cup of coffee with the Rockets, but that's the thing. It's like, it wasn't just who you were losing to, it was how.
Sorry, you had to say that name. I couldn't wait to say that name.
You had that name in the clip ready. You was like,
yes,
I'm gonna say this name today. They ain't even ready for this. Watch.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say this.
You're goddamn right.
LeBron said it the best. Growing up in the inner city, you hate Duke.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach K makes teamwork a priority. He holds to that. Even bringing aboard somebody like Kobe Bryant, who's more of a lone wolf, that basically sparked a fire in the younger players of like, okay, this is not going to be Larry Brown. This is a guy that's going to hold everybody, to the same standard no matter what. So with LeBron, Chris Bosh, Carmelo, how they looked back fondly on Kobe Bryant is a moment that just triggered what Gonzo said, just the respect of Kobe Bryant, because all of them were like, man, like he wants to be a part of Team USA. That makes us want to work that much harder.
But it was really that Vegas moment. It was really that moment there in Vegas. Yeah, they're partying. The players, they go to the club, everybody but Kobe. They're all dressed up, looking nice, having a good time, celebrating, partying. It's Vegas in the summer. It's off season. They coming back to the hotel room 4:30 in the morning, and they're going up in the elevator, and Kobe's going down in full workout clothes with a sweat already. Like, dude is different. And they said after that, everybody started waking up in the morning at like 5:30 a.m. because no one was getting up as early as Kobe.
Yeah, Melo said he ain't. It's way too early for me.
He said I ain't getting up before 30, but it fucking worked. He led by example, and you saw the impact it had on dudes' careers when they looked at how Kobe was working out and how hard and the respect. And you're right, it put that respect factor back in me. It's like, damn, bro, like this dude was different. Like, he was obsessed with basketball. He was obsessed with his craft, with developing and getting better. And it's like, I wish I was as good at anything I do as Kobe Bryant was at what he did. You know, that level of dedication says a lot, and it was infectious.
Yeah,
Hey,
there's nothing.
I was going to say one thing during this like when they were talking about Kobe. Did Chris Bosh not have some of the funniest facial expressions?
Oh yeah,
he always
absolutely.
has that.
He always has.
When he was talking about Kobe, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Chris Bosh was a meme in 2011. Come on, man. Don't forget that. His facial expressions are celebrated, Matt. Chris Bosh with the face. Remember when they poured the champagne on him? Remember when he was crying when they lost in 2011? Remember when he came up to photobomb LeBron in the post-game interview?
I don't remember any of that.
How do you not? This man gonna hit me with the MJ shrug.
That's not the MJ shrug. That's his bodyguard shrug.
Oh, okay. The sniff. You a sniff brother?
The guy, the one with the Jerry curl or whatever. Yeah, the old guy, the older white guy. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this right now. If Matt, you ever show up with a Jerry curl, bruh,
he'd have to get a yeah. Hey, so all right, so we get into the '08 Olympics. Obviously, Mike, you touched on it earlier. In Beijing, it starts out with the tough blowout loss to Greece. Basically, Sophocles Skortianis, Spinoulis, Antonis Fatsis pretty much led the charge against Team USA. So that kind of triggered, hey, what are we doing here? Like, we're not on the same page. You know, we got to go forward. Like, what's gonna kind of spark, you know, Team USA to not have this happen again? Because they said it in the doc. Oh no, here we go again. You know, back to kind of losing. Gonzo. So Coach K does something interesting when they basically get to play. We've kind of fast forwarded a little bit, playing Argentina. Argentina was a tough out because they had Manu Ginobili. So he goes and puts newspaper clippings of Manu Ginobili and what the media is saying, as far as being the best shooting guard in the world, as far as, you know, to Kobe Bryant, top 3 shooting guard to Dwayne Wade, lights a fire into those guys. What's your thoughts on kind of his tactics in motivation?
Genius move by a genius coach. You know, what makes a great coach is one who can light a fire on his players and get the most out of them. That is one heck of a move. And to think about it, we got to give credit, and I don't think we give enough credit. Dwayne Wade was ultimately the second best player in this Olympics for the USA. He was the second best player. He was definitely the second best player behind Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And no argument at all.
What was crazy is when we got to the tournament, like, Argentina barely beat that Greece team that Team USA lost to. Team USA gets to play Australia. That was a blowout. So they get to the Argentina game. They win by 20 points. Obviously, you know, it wasn't tough because Kobe Bryant's like, hey, I got Manu. Like, he ain't scoring. he goes down with an ankle injury. So Team USA kind of gets to cruise a little bit. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, you had Spain beats Croatia. Not a hard game for them. Lithuania blows out China because they didn't really, China wasn't, going to be able to have enough to battle. What was interesting, they didn't really touch on it in the doc because obviously it was more about Team USA, but Spain almost lost to the Lithuanian team.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
And people don't remember, but Lithuania had Šarūnas Jasikevičius that played for Golden State. They had Linas Kleiza, who was on Denver at that time, could shoot the ball, scored in different ways. Robertas Jaktovis at center. Like, they had some decent pieces that could match up well. And they kind of really kept guys like Gasol and them in check. And so going into the gold medal game, that's when Kobe Bryant starts with, I guess, the little bit of mind game. So Mike, you touched on it earlier. I'm going to go back to you. So you touched on his interaction with Gasol. Speak on that a little bit more.
Well, yeah, it was, and you see in the pool play how they blew out Spain by like 30. But Kobe he was studying their film. That's how dedicated he was. He studied the film and he knew the first play of the game, they're going to run this high screen and Gasol is going to be setting the screen on his man. And so he sets the tone and says, I'm going straight through his fucking chest. And everyone's like, whatever, that's your teammate. You play with him with the Lakers. You're not going to go through his chest, whatever. And then he does it off the rip and knocks Gasol down and gets charged with the foul, gets put in foul trouble. And the funny thing is, Gasol knew Kobe was going to do that. Gasol's like, yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that he was going to do that. But it definitely woke me up and it ignited our team because we were like, oh, shit. Like, he's not showing any mercy on us. He's coming straight for us. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to attack the head. You have to go at the best player on their team. Marc Gasol wasn't there yet. Jose Calderon wasn't there.
I thought Gasol was there.
No. Let me rephrase that. He was on the team, but he wasn't Marc Gasol yet.
Okay. Yeah,
he wasn't Marc Gasol, Memphis Grizzlies, Grindhouse yet.
Yeah, and they had Calderon.
He was still the chubbier Gasol that was a little bit overweight. Like,
exactly.
Wasn't in defensive, form and all that stuff.
Yeah, he was still Powell's little brother. You know what I'm saying? This is before Marc Gasol is Marc Gasol. So it's like, you have to make that statement. You have to take out Paul Gasol in the most respectful way possible. It's like, yo, this is going to be a war. And I have to go back and watch that game now because I haven't seen any of that was the first time I've seen those highlights since. And I forgot how good of a game that was. That was a freaking classic.
Yeah, it was one of the better Olympic games overall. Because obviously with Spain, you have more of a balanced scoring and things like that. Obviously, not a lot of people talk about it, but Rudy Fernandez.
Woo! Had a game.
Once again, it's always the random guy who who in these games, and like they kept it close, and it's always someone like Fernandez.
Rudy
Vanilas Spanulis, Baby Shaq, or whatever they were calling him.
Baby Shaq Baby Shaq had an all right game.
I'm just saying,
Rudy Fernandez had a game.
Yeah. He was dunking on people. He dunked on, was that Dwight Howard he dunked on?
He caught Dwight Howard sleeping. And it was on a one-handed. Was it with the left? Was it with the left hand
it
too?
Might have been.
And he was just like, Rudy was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many when did he come into the end? He came in with Portland, right?
Yeah, he came in with Portland. And I believe it was the 08-09 season.
Okay, so he came in like that next season. He was the upcoming season. Okay.
Because he was with Brandon Roy and Aldridge, that nice little team they had for a couple years. Yeah. And that was a squad. I was actually watching that squad like they might make some noise. But yeah, Rudy Fernandez had a game and he was an exciting player. he's an exciting player. He was hitting outside threes. He was attacking the basket. He was, and Spain was moving the ball. They would not go away. Like LeBron said it. He was like, this team won't fucking go away.
Well, what was crazy is in that gold medal game, LeBron and Kobe get into early foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to Dwayne Wade coming off the bench, and that kind of sparked it going forward. To be honest, the victory for USA was kind of in doubt really until you get later in the game. About 90s, what was it? 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. Like they talked about it like, hey, we still don't have this. They were trying to find, a rhythm to be able to close the game out. Obviously they were able to pull away, but we know what happens. They win and all that stuff. But for me, more so than the stuff I already knew as far as like the winner and like how the game went and the ups and downs and all that stuff, it was more like what Gonzo said, the behind the scenes stuff that really kind of put a cap on it. And we get the same director that helped out with The Last Dance. And I think that's why the doc was so good. With the Kobe moments and all that stuff. Gonzo, I know you talked about with Kobe in that moment. So I want you to kind of go back to what you were talking about because you said you wanted to mention it later. So what was it about that Kobe moment that got you?
What got me is like Kobe Bryant, he was walking, I think, getting off the elevator, and he was walking into the room with the other players. And I think he had like the USA shirt on, and he had like the blue pants. And when he walked into the room, I think as soon as he walked to the room, you could see like the windows, but the sun was kind of like beaming in. But as Kobe walked into the room, the light around him almost looked as if Kobe had like an aura to himself that kind of shined bright. And that stood out to me. And it was almost kind of like help is on the way. You know what I'm saying? This is the guy that's going to save you guys. But also how he came into practice shortly after that. He came into practice. He was diving for loose balls. He's making everything very intense. Like he had something to prove, which he really had nothing to prove at all because he was already a 3-time NBA champion. So he had nothing to prove in that department. We all know what Kobe Bryant has done in the finals. And then it got further on into the movie where before I even get to that point, Kobe Bryant was kind of quiet, and LeBron said, Kobe's the quiet leader. He leads by example. I'm more of a vocal leader, which even though LeBron made that comparison, I think Kobe's example speaks louder than LeBron's example because I don't want to hear nobody, and that's just me personally, I don't want to hear about what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. I'm more of a type of person. You can tell me you're going to do a whole lot of things. If you don't get it done, your word is pointless. I need you to show me more than you never have to say a word, but if you show me, I'm down. But anyway, it goes further on to show, Kobe was kind of like a loner. And I understand that because usually people who are like ultimate winners and competitors, they usually are loners. I kind of understand that idea of Michael Jordan kind of like being like a loner because when you want it that bad and you truly desire to win, it's almost like you kind of do walk alone. But in the end, they all kind of warmed up to Kobe, and it kind of brought a tear to my eye, just thinking about how great Kobe Bryant was. And I'm not going to say kind of brought a tear to my eye. It brought several tears to my eyes. I'm talking about my face was poured, drenched with tears, just to see that how the team was able to take Kobe Bryant's approach and how they started to love him as if he was their own brother. They sang them happy birthday. They got close with him. They followed his lead. But it also goes to show you that even in Kobe Bryant's death after the fact, it lets you know that how good of a human being he was, and despite what people say about him, he was obviously a very, very good teacher. We saw that even with his children and how he taught other NBA players. I think he would have been an excellent coach. And just let me know, man, how he truly be missed. And I'm not saying this to sound funny to anybody, but you know, I understand now how much people love Kobe Bryant, and it kind of opens my eyes to realize how much I loved him as an NBA player as well.
Yeah, the moment with his daughters and stuff like that, like, man, you can't even watch that now, like, because it's like anybody that has kids or anybody that's just like has a like family members that have kids, like it's just heartbreaking just to watch that because of how much everybody said like, oh, he can be a tough teammate and all that stuff. All that goes out the window when he softens up for, you know, when you're with your kids and all that stuff, and just how much they adored him and all that. And for me, like, and I want everybody's thoughts of just like overall, like a closing thought on the doc, but I'll go first just real quick. For me, the doc meant more overall of putting your ego aside for the pride of wearing the Team USA jersey and competing as a team. That's, you know, that's what it meant. That's what that doc meant to me, like overall. Mike, do you have any closing thoughts on the doc?
My closing thoughts on it is just the legacy of that team and those players. You know, the Redeem Team was kind of different from Dream Team. The Dream Team was like Magic, Bird, and Jordan, the three biggest stars in the NBA at that time for the previous, you know, decade. Here it is with the Redeem Team. You have LeBron at that point hadn't won. Melo at that point hadn't got out of the first round, I think. You know, really, Dwayne Wade is probably the most decorated out of them all because that he won a championship at a Finals MVP. Yes, Kobe had 3 rings, but he hadn't, as of that moment, been able to shake the, well, you never did it without Shaq. So it was a very different team, and I love the legacy of that, of how they were all kind of figuring out on the fly, like, and as Bill Pashney said, this was the second chapter in Kobe's career. This is where it turned into the legacy of Kobe after that. You know, he had just lost in the finals, but then after that wins 2 titles. You know what I'm saying? And then becomes the Kobe that everyone really celebrates and really remembers now. Like, he turned the corner, changed his number to 24, you know, shortly before that. So, yeah, I agree. The legacy of this team is just amazing. And then also the other thing that they didn't touch on in the doc, well, they touched on it with the, you know, playing poker every night and the camaraderie and friendship, but this is where D Wade and LeBron and Chris Paul became really great friends, and where Wade, Braun, and Bosh hatched the plan to all play together, which eventually led to the Miami Big Three and the not one, not two, and all of that stuff. So it's a very important legacy. I think that team should be remembered on almost on par with the Dream Team, simply because the Dream Team was ridiculously better than everyone they played. The Redeem Team was the world has caught up. You know, now what do you do? Now how do you win in a close game? Anyone can blow somebody out by 30 when they're trying to take pictures with you before the game, get you out of the game. Hey, can I get your shoes after the game? Da, da, da. Anybody, oh, we already won. You know what I'm saying? We already won the game. You know, it's a quote that Michael Jordan said to Charles Barkley, was like, when he elbowed that guy from Angola in the 92 Olympics, he's like, Charles, this dude's already scared of you. He's taking pictures of me while I'm shooting free throws. Like, come on. But the Redeem Team was not that. The Redeem Team was the world has caught up. and the spirit of the dream team has spread the game of basketball, and I love, and there's one other thing that they touched on, that the dream team wasn't just about winning the Olympics, it was about spreading the NBA around the world. It was about marketing that to people all over the world so they could see and really understand the game of basketball and see that, hey, this is how it's played, and that's why the NBA is a global game.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, any closing thoughts?
Well, I touched on it earlier. I think it was with most of us with the behind the scenes stuff, but honestly, the stuff, just serving in the military myself, just seeing the stuff, how they brought the military stuff into, I really enjoyed that segment of it. And then, of course, the Doug Collins stuff I thought was really good. Just a little fun fact, my dad actually knew him personally because my dad's from Bloomington, Illinois. Doug Collins went to ISU, which is in Bloomington Normal. My grandmother actually babysat his son, Chris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, my dad's always been a big Doug Collins fan.
Interesting. Gonzo, any closing thoughts to the doc for you?
Honestly, this documentary points out when you're playing for the Olympics or any type of championship, it's not about stat padding, it's about stacking wins.
Yeah, it's true.
They got the victories.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not the 2K Rec Center, right?
Absolutely not.
All right, so with the doc, wrap up that discussion, we got to go into another kind of hot topic discussion around, the social media universe, all that stuff. Draymond Green, Jordan Poole. We can talk about what side of the fence we're on as far as, who you're siding with between the two and all that stuff. But just the way it blew up, the way it leaked out, and then when you look at history around the NBA, Mike, I'm going to you first. Do you think that this was a overblown situation because of today's social media and all that stuff, or do you think it was a justified, this needed to be out there because Draymond's on one and he needs to be put to rest kind of thing? Where's your stance on it?
Honestly, I think two things can be true. I think we know who Draymond is. This is the same guy who kicked Steven Adams in the nuts and got suspended in the finals during the same season. This is the same guy that went off on Kevin Durant in a huddle of a regular season game saying, we won without you. But then again, he's the guy that recruited KD to make sure they never lost again. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, we know who Draymond is. Draymond's been in the league over a decade now. So I don't think it needed to be out there so we knew what Draymond was. I think it needed to be out there from the standpoint of championship teams go through a lot of adversity, some external, some internal. And I think Steve Kerr coming out and saying this is the biggest crisis that we've ever endured as a team says a lot. This is a team that lost Klay Thompson for the better part of 2 years, or 2.5, 3 years almost. This is a team that, blew a 3-1 lead after coming back from a 3-1 lead. This is a team that same season had Steph managing knee injuries. This is a team that has been through a lot. So to say this is a crisis, it really is. And I've been watching their preseason, and I watched the game last night against the Nuggets. And I will say this. The Warriors look sharp. They look intent on winning. And everyone knows their role. And I think when you have something like this happen and go so public, you have to kind of shorten the circle. You have to bring everybody back in together. And it's like, look, Draymond apologized to Jordan Poole, and we got to move past this. Now, will Jordan Poole ever move past it. No, dude, punch me in my face and knock me out. That's gonna take some time to get over with. But Steve Kerr has experience in getting punched in the face by a teammate on a championship team. He was punched in the face by none other than Michael Jeffrey Jordan. So if Steve Kerr can get over getting punched in the face by Michael Jordan, and then a year and a half later catching a pass to hit a game-winning shot to clinch over Utah, Jordan Poole is in the right place to learn from the right person.
Yeah. And Gonzo, this leads me to going to you. Jordan Poole got that money today. 4 years, $140 million with $123 million guaranteed.
Woo!
So that's about $30 million a year.
Woo! 35 million a year.
Yeah. With Jordan Poole, Gonzo, do you think he's worth that kind of money? Now, that's my first part of the question. The second part, if you're Jordan Poole, what are you doing to Draymond after you get that punch? Are you obviously you're not letting that slide, but what's your thoughts?
Well, is he worth that kind of money for what he put up last year at the NBA's? First of all, let's get this straight. Half the money these NBA players making, ain't none of them worth it. They playing a game. So let's get that part straight. I'm not paying nobody $300 million to shoot no basketball. But I congratulate them for making the money and being able to do this. But Jordan Poole got Draymond the best way that I think Kevin Durant should have got. Because all that crap that Draymond talks, and when you live in a glass house, you can't throw stones. That's the first thing. I can imagine how much he tortured and probably said so much crazy stuff to Jordan Poole. And I saw a post the other day. They said Jordan Poole, in one of the posts, said that Jordan Poole asked Draymond, why is your Twitter handle called Money Green when you can't make free throws? Then he asked him, he says, how did you get girls at MSU? Was it your screen setting or your triple singles? I love those comebacks because everybody thinks that the light-skinned guys are so weak. No, I like the toughness. I like the comebacks. I like the fact he's not scared. Mm-hmm. But also, Draymond couldn't take it, so he punched the guy.
Yeah.
This is what I believe. But I think he did the best thing he could do. I'm going to sign this extension. Get rid of Draymond. Get him out of here. Because guess what? We can always find a guy to get you triple singles and play help defense. We can find anybody to do that. Mm-hmm. But you can't find nobody to put up 17 and shoot 46% like I did last year. That's harder to do in the NBA. So I think him and Wiggins did the right thing. Draymond's finna get up out of there. It's about time anyway. He's been running his mouth entirely too long to be doing too much of nothing. Period.
Yeah, he's taking that player option, obviously, but I think he gets traded. He said he wanted to play for Detroit at some point in his career. Well, you got it, buddy. Cade Cunningham and Jay Ivey are about to be your best buddies.
Man.
Matt's going to have to be a Draymond Green fan because we know he's a Cade fan.
Wow.
It's crazy. So, speaking of Coach Matt is going to close us out with a Put You On Game segment. He's a big movie guy, kind of watches everything that comes out. Halloween Ends dropped yesterday. So, Matt, take it away and talk about Halloween Ends.
Okay, first off, if you don't have Peacock, you can go see it in theaters. If you have Peacock, you can watch it at home. I would recommend watching it at home. But I'm going to keep this really short. It's just one little spoiler I have to do because I was talking to Mike Skills yesterday. And I was telling him, and I was like, man, there's this scene there's a sewer. I said, this motherfucker Michael Myers has been living in the sewer for 4 years. Like, is this Pennywise? He's dragging bodies into the sewer like Pennywise. And I was just like, is this it or is this Michael Myers? I should say, is this Pennywise or Michael Myers? That's what I wanted to say, man. It's the only spoiler. It's a lacking context. Gonzo knows what I'm talking about because he saw the movie, so he knows what I'm talking about. And I will say, I'm going to close this. Gonz, Beast was better than Halloween Ends.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was. I agree.
Wow.
That's crazy. And I saw
we,
Beast, and so I'm not,
And we know how Gonzo felt after watching Beast, so yes. That says a lot.
Yeah, I had to throw that out there, though. That's all I have on Halloween Ends. I will, one more thing. The opening 10 minutes are really freaking good. I will say that they did get that right.
Do me a favor. So scale it, on a 1 to 10 for me.
5.25.
Damn.
I was leaning a 6 yesterday. I was at a 6, but thinking about it, 5.25 is all I can go. There's some good stuff in here. They did some good stuff with the Lori character, and the opening 10 minutes I really enjoyed. So I couldn't just give it a complete shit score. But I'm going 5.25.
All right. Well, if any of you listening or watching are horror fans and you just want to check something out, maybe have something on in the background, then that's telling you 5.25. It's an average score. Check it out, I guess.
That's a bad score coming from me.
Bad
what my scores are for movies typically.
Matt, the fact that you give it a 5.25 says a lot. If I were to watch it, I'd probably give it a 3 because our scales are a little different, man.
Yes,
but damn,
that's true.
Same. Yeah.
Well, happy Halloween, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. We try to cover hoops, entertainment, and culture here. Of course, that's what we do. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching us here on the YouTube channel. We need to get that subscriber base, heavily increased. It helps with the algorithm if you like the video. We're also on all audio streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. We have an Anchor page where we post all the links for easy access to anywhere that you want to listen. Make sure you're subscribed there as well. Lastly, we're now on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure you're subscribed, checking out the small content with clips and things like that we're posting. We're going to increase that traffic with more clips moving forward of each of the episodes in anticipation for the full episode releases. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We are Loop City, and we are out.